Hey gang, welcome back to the Great North Garage. The beginning of today's audio has some issues, but we're going to tackle the rear suspension on the car and we're going to rebuild the axle. We've got a torn CV boot too, so we're going to replace that, which probably has contributed to a lot of this grease all over the back of the car. Last time we did get the bushings done in the A-arms, so this time we're going to reassemble all that, including the new shock, the axle, and the brakes. You can clearly see the tear in the boot here. Just cut the clamps and slid it off. So we just cut the boot off and took the flange out. There's a lot of videos on YouTube on how to rebuild these axles, and they're pretty much all the same from what I understand, and this one was no different, so there's no use me trying to actually give instruction on how to do this, because like I say, there's all kinds of these on the internet, and it made it quite easy for me to do it. Just wanted to make sure I got all the old grease out. Paid very close attention to where everything faced as far as in or out, because there was subtle differences between some of the pieces. Went together fairly easily. The only thing I did not remember was which way the little spring washer faced, but because of the internet, that was also easy to find out. Okay, so I'm going to grease the CV axle. I've got grease somewhere here. I poked a little hole in it so I could hopefully get it in, pack it into the bearings and everything nice and tight. Put the rest inside the flange that it bolts to the transmission with. I read somewhere that it's a good idea to actually put the grease in the boot, and then it'll kind of work its way up. Probably a cleaner and smarter way to do it, but I read it after the fact, so we'll get it all down. And I also read that if you just get it all in there, it'll eventually just warm up and find its way everywhere anyway. So I'll try to do it as cleanly as possible. It's going to be a little tough because I've got the whole axle assembly attached. I didn't detach both sides of the axle, so I can't really take the axle nuts off without getting the hub in a pretty strong vise, and I don't want to start doing that. So we'll get this all greased up. I might have to put a little bag over it to keep it somewhat clean and get it close, and then we'll hang the hub from the shock. I think if I can muscle it in there, that's the kind of the plan. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, so I'll just start packing this, and I imagine we use the whole thing. Just gonna cram it all in there as tight as I can. Find all the little holes and spots for it all. It's probably going to be tough to get the whole bag in there because it doesn't want to, it's so thick it doesn't probably want to go down very well. But I've got 2 pairs of gloves here, so one to pack this grease and then one to manage it after. And leave that there for now. Try not to knock that over, and I'm going to squeeze some of the rest of it into the hub. Actually, maybe I won't do that. Actually, it's not a bad idea. I don't really know what I'm doing. I really am just making this up as I go. So let me move this a little more out of the way. I don't want that to hit the ground, get covered in dirt. Crawl under here and just try and get a bunch squeezed in. I'm sure this makes for a great video. Actually, I've got a better idea. I'm going to use a piece of poly to try and pack this down in there nice and tight. Put the rest in there. Okay, that's pretty much all of it. So the shock mount is on the top. Yeah, this thing's really heavy, so it's gonna be tough to get it in there cleanly without, oh, maybe we're close actually. Okay, hold on. Actually, we're really close. Come up a little higher with this. I think I want to get something sort of fastened in here. I was going to mount the shock first, but if I just get that bolt through there, then we're hanging. Okay, so I think actually, I guess I'll have to take this out, lower it after, but at least I can maybe get that axle on now. Yeah, what's happening here? Oh no. Oh no. So we got a little bit of a setback here. These are the boots that I got in from the supplier, and it comes with the flange. So I removed the old flange from the axle and just put the whole new assembly on. When I went to bolt it in place, these little humps there, they prevent these little half moon guys from sitting flush on the flange. So I'll rip all this apart again. I'll have to take the whole axle apart, clean all the grease out again, and just change the flange, I think, because the boots look the same. So we should be okay there. Just kind of a little disheartening, but honestly, for someone with my experience, if this is the biggest setback I get in building the whole back end again, I'll take it. So after some deliberation and thinking and reading and sleeping on it, I decided to take the OEM washers and grind them down. I just ground the arch out of here and a little bit of the ears just here. And now it fits on these new boot flanges, no problem. And I think they're still gonna do the job of keeping this thing snug. I will torque them to spec, and I'll double check them. I'll retorque them after a couple 100 miles or even 100 miles just to see where it's at. Make sure it stayed tight, but I'm pretty sure this is gonna work. So I'll bolt this axle back in place, and then we can tackle the A-arms and shock and brakes. So the axle's bolted in, and we got the shock mounted, just snugged up. So it's kind of holding everything in place. And now we're gonna bolt this spindle in with the control arms, upper and lower. We've got a bushing that goes in these guys here. I'm gonna put little never sees on there. I'm not really too worried about putting never sees on everything in this car. I live in Canada, and I'm used to working on like really rusty stuff, and this thing gets wet like 2 or 3 times a year when I wash it, and that's about it. So I'm not really worried about just slathering everything in never sees. Every bolt I've ever taken off this car since I've owned it has come off fairly easily, so I don't think there's any need to make too much of a mess. But I will just grease these up a little bit, I think. So these guys go in there, and then we've got some washers, some large on the outside, small on the inside, or other way around, large on the inside I should say, small on the outside. And there's these little guys, which I found out the hard way. There's a washer in there with a little hole in it, and there's a little pin right here that goes into the A-arm. Actually, it's a little dowel, and I thought it was kind of a little spot weld in there, because they're all kind of just locked in place from just sitting there for so many years. But one of them actually fell out, and I don't know where it is. I probably thought it was grease and just threw it in the garbage, just swept it up or whatever. So I stole one from the other side. I also stole a couple of other parts. One of these guys here was ripped. Some of them are in pretty rough shape, so I'm going to order some new ones. Some of these parts are going to come in new, so I'm just stealing parts I need from the other side for now, just to get this side together, and then we'll just tackle the other side when we get all the parts in. So I'm going to start putting that together now. This might be entertaining. I think I need 4 or 5 hands to do this, but we'll give it a try. So we've got everything buttoned up. We've got the caliper on, we've got the brake line on and tightened. We've got the pins in for the brake pads. We've got the pins here with the little wires in there to keep them from moving back and forth. We got the pads. We got a little bit of play on each side of the pad. We'll have to adjust this after, front and back. I don't know how to adjust those exactly. Well, I know how to adjust them. I don't know where to adjust them to, so I'll have to do a little research on that. But other than that, we're pretty much done on this side. I'm going to throw the other cam cover on here. We've got the one here, so we'll get that on, and I think we're done on this side for a while until we want to just come back and get the sway bar on. So I think that's it for today. I'm going to clean up a big mess here, wipe off some brake fluid that's on everything, and carry on.